getting snagged by things, you know, like, because like when we're doing these things, like literally we get snagged by this sin. It catches us up, even when we do get sober. You know, you can be sober your entire life, and I never touched anything. I never did this. I'm a good person. I did all these works. I, you know, helped millions of people. I had this TV show and gave out things and just did all this thing, and still go to hell if you don't have Jesus Christ, because we are born in sin. The Bible says not one is good, not one heart. Every heart is deceitfully wicked, you know, above all. Nothing. It's, you know, by the grace of God that we are drawn to Him. You know, God's love and God. We all of a sudden are drawn to Him. Like, it is just crazy. Like, I remember when my eyes were all of a sudden opened, I was just drawn. When I accepted Christ, I went home and I threw all my drugs away. I was clean for like a year. There was times, you know, I've been saved for 7 years. You guys know when I started where I backslid and stuff happened, you know. And, you know, I'll have another example of myself in a few minutes in the other verses. It's like, I just I've done, you know, pretty much everything you shouldn't do when I wasn't saved, and then when I was saved. And, but it says, you know, to run that race with endurance. You know that, and when he says lay aside every weight and the sin, that by, you know, setting that aside, you know, a lot of times when we have these things, we try to get rid of them ourselves or try to deal with these problems ourselves. You know, Christ says to hand over, you know, let me have your burdens. My yoke is light. You know, he will take care of us. You know, through even just this last time with my stucco business, I gave you guys lots of examples of how Jesus has just, I mean, when I have just like not freaked out and frantically tried to deal with this situation on my own, or desperately try to fit this circle in a square hole that doesn't seem like it's working, but I'm trying to know that's got to be the way, and just wait and pray and wait and pray until the Lord moves and opens that door or does something. I mean, it's crazy because, I mean, I've had homeowners the next day say, oh, the color of the house is fine, but the day before, the color is completely wrong. And I went by it, I was like, man, that's the wrong color. And I go by it, and you know, it does look different. You know, I don't know, you know what I mean, like if it's so dry or what, but just simple things that I pray, like, Lord, I don't have time for this. I need help right now. I know it's something small, minute. There's people suffering. But I was like, it just shows that how much He loves us into every little detail of our lives, you know. He knows how many hairs we have in our head. You know, I mean, it's just crazy. He knows so much about us, you know, talks about us knowing us in the womb. And He wants us to help us with these things that are on us, these weights that carry us down. So, you know, He can help us run this race, you know, and, you know, as we get to know Him more and more, like we talked about last week, you know, dying to ourselves and being a living sacrifice for Him. We have to be doing this, looking to Him in prayer, walking in the Spirit, you know, and running this race to where we don't have these weights and these things that we're gathering up and trying to, you know, handle ourselves. And because we're going to get tired. You know, He says He wants to run that race with endurance. It's a long race. Our life, even though it's talked about in the scriptures as a blink of an eye, it seems long to us. You know, I mean, even though time does go by quick, each day kind of sometimes seems long. And like when we're having bad times, it seems like it takes a long time. Like from jail. You know what I mean? Like jail is like, oh my gosh. Seriously? There's not even a clock in here, and the guard tells me it's like whatever. I mean, oh my, I just wanted to, oh, it sucks. And then you find out, you know, like they don't even transfer you, there's no TV. Why is there any TV there? Oh, because some idiot 5 years ago broke it, you know. It's just like, and just, I mean, just these things, I mean, time just seems to drag, you know, but yet it's at the blink of an eye. So, when it says looking unto Jesus, you know, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the, you know, that's what we're looking into with our problems, you know. And I love it, like in when it talks about Peter in the New Testament, when they're out there and all of a sudden they see Jesus walking on the water, and they like are all freaked out for a second. They're like, "Oh my gosh, it's a ghost," you know. And then it's like Jesus like this way. They're like, "Oh no, Jesus!" And you know, it wasn't just, you know, this pool. It was the Sea of Galilee, was it? The crazy, stormy stuff, and you know, he's out there walking. And Peter went out and he started walking on that water, just looking at Jesus. He wasn't worried about anything that was going on, the storm. He didn't realize he was walking on the water, I don't think, because he was so focused on Christ and getting towards him. And then all of a sudden, he took his eyes off Christ, and what happened? He sunk. He sunk, but Christ reached down and pulled him up. But the thing is, he had the courage to step out with that faith for that moment. And I always look at that as like a thing for my life, as when I have my eyes on Christ, and there's the storm around me, which is obviously just the cares of this world and all the stuff that's going on in this world. And when my eyes are on Christ and I'm looking towards him, it's just like, oh man, awesome. I know all this stuff is happening, but I don't care, because Christ has me in his hand. He's taking care of me. If God is for me, who can be against me? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. There's nothing that can come against me. It says that we are more than conquerors in Christ in Romans. That nothing can stop, nothing can stop us from the love of Christ. And it's just awesome. But the moment I take my eyes off him and I get caught up in doing my own thing, oh my gosh, like Friday, I had a 2-hour moment of awesome peace and just was worshiping the Lord, met a couple friends, and then like the rest of the day, the enemy was attacking me, and I kept my eyes off the Lord and was like focused on what was doing this and that. I didn't eat till 9 o'clock, and I was just a big ball of nasty flesh when I got home. I was like, I was not a nice person. I was just like, Lord, what? And the enemy will use the cares of this world to distract us, the simple little things. When it's the simple little things that we got to look to Jesus for. All right, first thing in the morning, I'm getting up. I don't care if I got to get up at 3 a.m. I'm going to get up at 2:30, and I'm going to make sure that I got at least 10 minutes to pray and read a little Devo, or, whatever, or devotional. So it goes on after that. So looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. The author, he is to talk about faith and what Jesus did. We just got to look to him. So he said, for who, or author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him, Jesus, who endured such hostility from sinners against himself, lest you become weary and discouraged in your souls. For you have not yet resisted to bloodshed, striving against sin. So, when we look to Christ and what he did for us, when we're going through something, and we actually read and look at what he went through, how does our pride even go up when we're on the freeway and someone cuts us off and flips us off? I snap. You know what I mean? I snap, and literally, I'm better at it now, to where I'll pull over and get myself, but I used to snap. I would pull over and park next to the guy and get out of my car and try to get the guy to get out of his car. And I was ready, and the thing is that stupid pride and that arrogance that comes up, and Christ, the creator of the universe, God, comes down to die for us. And, the people that were spitting on him, mocking him, beating him, and then, not to mention he was harassed the whole time he was doing his ministry, but then, and they were mocking him, but he just walked in love, was forgiving people. I forgive you, go sin no more. And, he was crucified, and the joy that was set before him was that he was going to be able to provide a way for us to spend eternity with him. He was going to be able to dwell in us. We were going to have this intimate relationship with him. And he completed it. He did it. He conquered death. And it's so awesome. It says he sat down at the right hand throne of God. So when we look at that, it's like, when Jesus, the stuff that he has went through, it talks about in Hebrews 2 and 4, Hebrews 4, 14 to 16, that we have a high priest who has went through everything that we have went through, and was tempted in yet every single way that we were tempted somehow, and that when we are struggling and going through something and going through a battle or struggle, that we should go boldly before that throne of grace. Whenever we are in the middle of that struggle, like when I was on Friday, later on that afternoon or evening, I should have just pulled over and been like, Lord, I'm sorry, forgive me, and just prayed and just sought him for a few minutes and got back into just the spirit and got out of the flesh. Because he says, to come boldly before that throne of grace and obtain it so we might get that grace when we need it in that time of mercy. That time when we're struggling and we need mercy and grace. And we will get it. It's a promise, because Christ has went through that stuff and he has compassion for us. For everything we go through, he has compassion. You can tell through his ministry on earth. I mean, just the compassion he had for people, just walking that he came across and, was just healing. And it was just crazy. Even Lazarus, Mary and Martha, their brother had died and he was just sad. It says Jesus wept. And it talked about how he was just saddened by seeing everybody that was just mourning and weeping. And he went in and brought them back to life, And he loved them. He loved those guys. And, Pastor Bob was talking last night about glory and just like this perfectness that we're going to be conformed into. This perfect love, this perfect of just everything, every good thing that there is, is just going to be perfected in us, and we are going to be perfected in Christ. We are going to be like him. We're not going to be a God, but we are going to be like him in nature, like just perfected and just, when we get to heaven, we get our new bodies, of course, but it's just awesome. So it goes on, when we have, when we do get caught up and things happen and we're running that race, and sometimes we do slip and we fall, we always do, like we were talking about last week a little bit. It talks about, in 5, it says, it's referring back to Old Testament in Proverbs. It says, my son, do not despise the chastening of the Lord, nor be discouraged when you are rebuked by him. For whom the Lord loves, he chastens, and scourges every son he receives. If you endure chastening, God deals with you as sons. What son is there of whom a father does not chasten? But if you are without chastening, of which you have become partakers, then you are illegitimate and not sons. So it's saying, and I went through this when I backslid, when I became a Christian. And I ended up going to jail and almost prison over this whole thing when I wasn't listening to the Lord and got caught up in sin. And at the time, I was like, why is this happening to me? All this stuff. But yet I look back, and during that time of spanking or whatever, that miserable time in jail and probation, all this stuff, I look back and that was the greatest, turnaround time in my life, because I sought the Lord and it changed my life. I was able to just seek the Lord when I was in jail, and then I was able to, when I got out, just pursue it and learn on probation with my UAs, how to be sober again and just getting used to love the Lord. And it was awesome, and it goes down in 11, it says, now no chastening seems to be joyful for the present, but painful. It's not fun when you're getting spanked, or the crap kicked out of you. Nevertheless, afterwards, it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. Therefore, strengthen the hand which hang down and the feeble knees, and make straight paths for your feet, so that what is lame may not be dislocated, but rather healed. That's so awesome, because, it also says that, for those who have been trained by it, like it talks about in James, like, if you just keep getting spanked and backsliding, you're going to it's going to be miserable, because I lived that for a while. Even when I got out of jail and I backslid again, I was going back and forth, and it was just a battle. But when I completely surrendered to Christ and let myself get trained by that chastening, and learn that he wasn't just trying to keep me from not having fun, but that this sin was destroying my life, the people around me, and the enemy was pulling blinders over me, that I mean, he has transformed me.